It's so easy every day, living in Lubbock, the one and only LBK.
'Cause we got rock and roll, we got the blues, we can honky tonk in our cowboy boots. And through the dust in the rearview mirror, you can see our rhythm and roots. And through the dust in the rearview mirror, you can see our rhythm and roots.
Welcome to another episode of LBK Rhythm and Roots podcast. I'm your host, Jason Robertson. I'm alongside my lovely co-host, Rhonda Taylor. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing fabulous. This has been a pleasure to be here today.
Absolutely. Today, we are at the Buddy Holly Center at 1801 Crickets Avenue. Buddy Holly Center, for those of you who aren't aware, is a cultural center based on the history of Buddy Holly. It has an amazing exhibit of Buddy Holly memorabilia. The Buddy Holly, I don't know if you've been through there yet, but it is absolutely incredible.
I have before, and it is wonderful. But this in here is fantastic, what's going on today.
So we were in one of the exhibit halls here today, and there is a private collection that has been donated to the Southwest Music Archive at Texas Tech by Dr. Glenn Ely, and it's a rock and roll collection that is absolutely incredible.
It's called Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, and there's lots of signatures in here.
There's lots of stuff
Yeah.
here.
Some of them you can't really read.
So get down there to the Buddy Holly Center before this thing is gone and take a look at this, because it is a beautiful private collection. And in correlation with that, we have Mr. Jonny Verbeten with us today, who is the manager of the Southwest Music Archives at Tech.
Hi, yeah, glad to be with you today.
Thank you for being here with us, Jonny.
So glad to have y'all.
And in conjunction with that, we have the Jonny Verbeten Trio, which is you and Tristan Knock and Dustin Pettigo.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
We just got an amazing little private
Yes, we did.
concert with these guys.
Yes,
you
we
guys
did.
are incredible.
It was literally incredible. That would be the word
thank
I
you,
used.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Y'all were having a lot of fun. It was very evident.
We've
do
had
that a
two-
lot.
We've done two jazz bands. Y'all are in the top two of the two we've done. So.
Yes,
Oh,
I
good.
just I love jazz so much. I mean, I'm a singer, but when I'm listening to jazz, it's just like it just fills you with music with no singing. It's not necessary. It's just
Well, and the sound in
Love
here
it.
was incredible. We could feel it. It was so rich.
this is a
and
great
full.
place to hold a concert. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the trio and how you guys came to be the Jonny Verbeten Trio.
Yeah, thanks. So we have a blast playing together. That's the big thing. We all play lots of music in town with a lot of different artists. We play a lot of different genres. But when we play jazz, we all kind of have a passion for that, and we have a lot of fun. And so really, that's kind of why we started this group, because we wanted to play the music that we liked. I sit and make arrangements of a lot of jazz standards, and I didn't have a group of people to play with. So Dustin has been my dear friend for, what are we, like 8 years?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And so I think both of us have always kind of wanted to do this. We would play other gigs, and if we could sneak in a jazz number, we were always having a good time. So
It's like our guilty pleasure, you know, and someone would say, hey, y'all want to do an instrumental? And the answer was always, absolutely. Yes. How weird can we get?
How long do you want us to
Yay.
go?
The other thing about playing with Dustin is that anytime I'm like digging on a tune and it can be really complicated, I'll be like, hey man, check this out. And he'll write me like a week later and be like, I learned it. so we kind of challenge ourselves in that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, come see us out and about, and you'll get this.
How did
plus
y'all
a couple
find
hours.
this killer drummer? Because I'm going to tell you something. This dude is a killer.
I know
back
we need
there,
to get
man.
your number too.
I appreciate that so much.
I'll let Tristan tell his story.
So we met. I met Dustin first before I met Jonny. Met him. We play at not Jonny anymore, but we play at First United Methodist Church, kind of down on Broadway. And when Jonny started playing at the church, Dustin had been kind of telling him about me some, like you need to get me to come play, for the trio that he was wanting to make. And I went up to Jonny's house one day with Dustin, and we just cranked out some tunes, and then they told me I was in. And so, that's how we
It didn't take that long to figure out it was the right fit.
Y'all really are
downbeat.
right there. It just really seems like very natural.
No, y'all are all
Y'all
very,
lucked out
very
big time.
accomplished musicians.
thank
very
you.
impressed. Very
Thank you so
impressed.
much.
So let's start with you, Dustin. Tell us a little bit about where are you from?
So I grew up in Seminole, a little bit south of here. I actually, Seminole doesn't have like a orchestra program, right? So I did high school band and started playing bass guitar as a freshman in high school, and just like really loved Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and that's all I cared about. And then I think I was a senior when I first heard jazz. Someone made me sit down and listen to Jaco Pastorius. I thought, yeah. No, I mean, I was set down in front of a stereo, and they said, you need to listen to this. And it really did, absolutely change my life. I at that point was like, I've got to understand this music. And so then I went to South Plains College because that was what I knew to do, and I think I was already there, 3 or 4 semesters by the time I started playing acoustic bass. I thought, I want to understand jazz, and jazz bass players play string bass, so I need to play string bass. So I went and bought one, and I wake up every day and I look at it and it looks at me, and we have a discussion, and it usually wins, and it's a great journey,
And it's beautiful right back there.
It is. I'm very proud of that instrument. It's my baby, one of them.
Tristan, how about you, buddy?
My whole drumming career kind of started in the 6th grade whenever I got into percussion in middle school. But I didn't really have much of an interest in drum set growing up. A lot of my family, they're not really musicians. I'm kind of like the first musician in my family. Kind of like gotten some people in my family to kind of pick it up though. So I'm kind of starting to cultivate that.
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah. And then in the 7th grade, seeing that I was kind of doing okay with percussion in school, just like on the snare drum and timpani and marimba and all that, my youth church that I was going to at the time in the 7th grade wanted me to come play drum set. And I was a little silly back then. I definitely thought that meant I was just going to do what I did in band and like play a snare drum. And then I walked in and I see a big old drum set and I'm like, oh, that's what I got to play. I'm like, I don't think I can do that. But people started to teach me. I started to learn how to play church music at first. And then in the 8th grade, I started taking lessons with a guy named Al Gardner out of SPC. Amazing musician, amazing teacher, great guy. Really love him. And everything he did for me, I can't give him enough thanks. Taught me a lot about everything I know. And then the Whiplash movie came out. I kind of became one of those stereotypical dudes that saw the movie and was like, oh, now I gotta like jazz because I gotta be the cool drummer, But that got me into really, really listening to jazz. And then I grew a deeper and deeper passion for it as time went on. And ever since, I've just been in a deep pursuit of just trying to be the best musician I can be, but especially jazz musician. Right now, I'm in the jazz performance program at Texas Tech and taking lessons from Fabio Augustinus, a great teacher also. Oh. I've learned from many great teachers,
So you probably know some of the TTU Jazz Collective guys.
I do know a whole lot of them.
They're our buddies now.
I pretty much know every single one of them.
This small group of jazz artists in this town, we all kind of know each other a little bit.
So glad there's a group at all.
Tristan, where are you from originally?
I'm from Levelland.
Okay, originally. So you're a Levelland hometown boy.
Yes,
okay.
I am. I sure am.
Johnny, what about you, man? Where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm the non-Texan in this room.
Okay.
So I grew up in a town called Racine, Wisconsin. It's just south of Milwaukee. So I came a long ways from home. I had an interesting upbringing with music. First off, I'm a big family, 7 kids. I'm the only one that plays music, and really that includes all my cousins and aunts and uncles. So I kind of had to pave this whole journey myself, which was cool. The effect of that is I didn't really discover a lot of music until much later in life. So I never heard what I call real jazz until I was probably like 22. But I took piano lessons. I played classical piano. I did a piano performance degree and played classical piano. And all at the same time, I played electric guitar and I was in rock bands, and that's how I started gigging. And then it just so happened I got a chance to go see Chick Corea play. And when I saw it, my whole life was instantly changed. So I had always been into improvised music. It started out with like the Allman Brothers, and then I got into jam bands, and I got obsessed with Fish for a while. And then I saw Chick, and I was like, this is what this is what I've been missing.
That's speaking to you.
Oh yeah, and so it was almost instantaneous. I said, okay, I'm going to be a jazz piano player, and I did. And as these guys can attest, once you get the bug, man, you fight hard. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the first song that you guys played for us today.
Yeah, so that song is called Triumvirate, and I'll let Dustin tell you a little bit about the title because he actually came up with it. So
Yeah,
So this
well,
is an original composition.
this is an original composition, yeah. Mhm. And
Well,
actually, I'll mention too, we've actually been recording this year. We have an album coming out later this year that's going to be mostly original music. So
Nice.
well, so we were sitting there, you know, Johnny was like, "Hey, check this out," you know, and he was showing me the tune and telling me about kind of what the thought process behind the composition was, because it's a wonderful tune that he wrote. And he was talking about the influences of the tune. He said, you know, there was like this bit of Chick Corea, and there was a bit of, who were the other two?
So I was really getting into Ahmad Jamal.
Ahmad Jamal, that
and
was
he
who it
just
was, yes.
recently passed away this year. And so I was making this comment about his compositional style, and I thought I wanted to imitate that a little bit. And so it was Ahmad, it was Chick Corea, and the other one was Dave Brubeck.
Dave Brubeck,
and,
yes.
And it's really an unlikely pairing of the three, but I had kind of borrowed some rhythmic ideas, some harmonic ideas, and put it together. And this is kind of where I came up with my inspiration for this recording.
But yeah, so then we were talking about what to call it, you know, and it's like these three titans of piano, and I'm pretty massive nerd in a lot of ways, and so I was like, oh, we should call it Triumvirate, because that's like, you know, the three people that judge your fate. You know, that's what that word means. It's a group of three who pass edicts. And I thought, well, if there's any three titans, it's those three, you know. But yeah, it's goofy, but that's how my brain works, you know.
And when we play with this group, this is actually one of our goals. We want to take on whatever piano rep, the best piano players. We want to take on Monk. We want to take on Herbie Hancock. We want to take on Chick Corea, Oscar Peterson, Dave Brubeck, and we just go through tons of Bill Evans, and we want to play piano rep. So all of us have played a lot of jazz gigs. We've all played a lot of standards, and we like the standards, but we want to get into like what are the compositions written by jazz piano players for this trio context.
Nice.
So
Well, let's cut to that first song. Here you go. Check it out. You're going to love this. Man, that was so good. You guys are so talented.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You make me want to play all of those instruments. I don't play instruments.
I don't know
really,
if y'all
but-
could see us, but me and Rhonda were over there with our eyes closed, just
Yeah.
grooving, you know. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it makes you feel good to listen to good jazz music.
Hey, that's what we like. When we play gigs here in town and we see that people are getting it, it gets us really excited because we think that Lubbock actually has an audience for this, and there's a lot of people that
I
enjoy
believe
this
so.
kind of music. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and you know, I think one thing that we've learned through we're gigging musicians, we're songwriters, and through doing this podcast, we've learned not only the different genres that appeal to the taste here, but there's so much handcrafted original music in every genre.
Yeah.
Everybody that we have interviewed has had original music. Every
This is
single
very
one
true.
of them.
Yeah.
It's been very
and it's all just
incredible.
been so good.
Yeah,
And on every, whatever it is, I feel like I can relate to every artist and every song that we have done in this podcast this season. Just loved all of
I think
them.
that's one of the things that I really love about this podcast, and I think it's a unifying like quality of Lubbock and Lubbock music, which is, you know, even though it's a little unknown outside of this sphere, it's really impactful. Is that we have a love of original music.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are festivals in town, the Lubbock Live Festival that just happened recently. That's just all day original music from countless bands of all different kinds, you know. And I think a lot of people will kind of dog on Lubbock and they'll say like, oh, it's just country music. And that's not really true. It's
not
just,
true. It can
we just
seem
want
that way.
original music. You know, that's what people want is they want something that's unique, you know.
Something fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how often are you guys gigging around?
It varies. We tend to get kind of busy spells and then slow spells. So we got 2 coming up this weekend. So yeah.
2 or 3 times a month on average. I think,
totally.
you know, we'll have some where it's like this weekend we got 2 nights back to back, and then we'll have a month where we don't have a gig, but you know, we're always trying to rehearse, get new tunes under our fingers, write new tunes. You know, like Jonny mentioned, we were, you know, in the studio recently, so we stay active even when we're not out, and that's, I think, important.
And then of course we all play with other groups too. So it's a lot of kind of balancing the calendar, which, you know, is part of it. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Every once in a while we'll call in a sub, but it's just not quite the same thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about you're going to the studio to record some original music. Who's doing the recording? What studio are you guys working with?
So we're doing all of our recordings. Oh, not all. I'm sorry. We're doing our recordings with Alan Crossland, and then we're also doing some with Amy DeVoge at the Crossroads Recording Studio at Texas Tech. So,
Nice.
Oh, nice.
and we've done basically going back to Chick Corea, I guess, we kind of came up with this idea of the electric band and the acoustic band. And so Chick likes to tour under one of those names. And so one will be all keyboards and electric bass, and the other will be piano and upright bass. So we thought we'd kind of do a little bit of both. Alan happens to have a gorgeous Yamaha C4 piano in his studio, so we wanted to record there for the acoustic stuff. And then we did the electric stuff with Amy. So.
That's cool, man. There's a lot of our guests have recorded out at ACUF.
Yes. It's talked
And
about
every one
time
of them
and time
says
again.
nothing but magical things about Alan.
I mean, he's incredible. So, and then he's done all the mixing and mastering, so we kind of have some continuity over the whole album. So,
Nice, man. Nice.
Another thing that's so common too from all of these is South Plains College.
Absolutely.
It's just cranking them out left and right. Yeah.
It's a, I mean, you know, the gentleman that Tristan mentioned earlier, Al Gardner, right? Mentored me when I was a student out there. He started calling me for gigs when I was 18, you know, and telling me everything I did well and everything I didn't do well. You know, it was really important. But I think that what's really special about that organization that they have at South Plains College, both in the, you know, what they call the commercial music side and the fine art side, is that it's people who are willing to mentor kids, you know, like people who are willing to take some yokels under their wing and educate them in a loving and encouraging way. It's a really special place.
Well, one of our previous guests that just released a couple weeks ago, Chris Hudgens, incredible guy. And Chris was talking to us about that, you know, about all the ensembles and how he tries to get students out to play with him when he's out gigging. And I think that's such a cool dynamic of what South Plains does for the students.
It's special.
You know? It is. So tell us about this second tune that you guys played for us.
So the second tune is called Israel, and it was one that was recorded by Bill Evans, and so we wanted to get some Bill Evans. Really, the inspiration for this trio is this 1960s Bill Evans trio kind of concept, so it felt like a good nod to get Bill in there. It also just so happens that I flew in late last night from an international flight that was from Israel, so I spent a week in Jerusalem. So I have a sibling that lives out there, and I was visiting and had a great time, but I thought it'd be a nice little nod to play it today.
Yeah, and you were telling us that there is actually a jazz vibe there in Israel, that they've got some.
Oh, they're just they're churning out some of the best players in the world right now. So last time I went to New York, they had Israeli players in a bunch of the clubs. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
Great. That's cool. Well, here it is, Israel. What a cool tune, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. We loved that one. Actually, when we started rehearsing, that's one of the first ones we worked on, and you could feel it right there that it was going to be all right.
Yep.
Of the jazz, when we were talking to TTU Jazz Collective and Nigel, and he was talking about some of his original, I think it's there's a common thread there that you guys feed off of these influences and incorporate it into your music. And I think that's so cool how you draw from these different influences of music that you feel, you know, and kind of tie it into your original. Is that pretty common for original jazz compositions? I mean, is that a common thread throughout the jazz world?
I think that's how we learn.
Sure.
So, as a piano player, you have to think about so much when you're playing. And so the way that you learn is by listening to players and trying to imitate them. So after a while, you kind of start putting a name to it. You say, well, that's something that Bill does. You know, that's something that Oscar does. And so when it comes to composing, there's kind of a tendency, you start playing, you say, oh, that's kind of like what Bill would do, you know. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the tradition of jazz, and like that's something that jazz musicians take seriously, is we talk about the tradition, you know. It's one of honoring the greats, you know. That's what happened all the way back with bebop and the entirety of the art form, is people looking at those that came before them. And, you know, any changes to the art form and any growth isn't as a statement of, well, I don't like what they did. It's saying, well, what can I do? How can I synthesize all of the things that came before me in a way that's true to me, you know, and try to fit into that tradition as compared to try to, you know, walk away from it. And I think that's something that you're right to pick up on with jazz musicians, is that we all look at the greats with a really almost sacred reverence, you know.
Yeah, I've noticed that meeting y'all.
And although it can be really easy to look at jazz and think, oh, this is just so complicated music, there's so much, you know, music theory, and everyone gets all nerdy about it. At the end of the day, you're learning a sound, and the best way to really, really learn the sound is to just fill your ears with it as much as possible. And then, you know, like Jonny said, imitate, put it on your instrument, you know, try it out. And you're going to get not very close, you know, like when you first start, you know, but with time and some real focused effort, you know, you'll see it come to fruition in that way.
It's a really cool feeling when you pinpoint it, when you're like, how has Monk, there's a scale Monk likes to use in a lot of his tunes. And I remember the first time sitting at the piano, I'm like, oh, that's what he's doing. And as soon as that clicks, you hear it everywhere. And you say, okay, that person's playing some Monk, you know. It's a really cool. So it's a lot of work, a lot of listening. For me, I like to get up at like 5 a.m. and play when it's still dark outside. And it's just nothing like it, you know. But
Do y'all play every day?
Yeah,
Without
pretty
fail?
much.
without fail.
always,
I knew
yeah.
you'd say yes, but just had to check.
Practice. So tell us about this next song.
So this next song is called Solstice. I titled it that because I have a lovely old, I say old, it's an antique grand piano that was made in 1933, and I have it positioned in such a way at my house that I can look out the window while I play, and that's incredibly meaningful to me. I spend every chance that I can outdoors, and so that's kind of a theme that runs throughout this album that we're making. And so it just happened to be the day of the winter solstice when I wrote that song, and I was staring out the window, kind of taking in the weather and the nature. And I have a sweet cat named Maggie that sits next to me on my piano bench, and it just felt like a really good connection. And so I called it Solstice. Yeah.
All right. Here is Solstice by the Jonny Verbeten Trio. Great original tune, man. I'm very impressed with y'all's compositions.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Very.
It's all Johnny. I mean, he's got such a wonderfully like intuitive composition style. Every time he brings a tune to us, it doesn't take long for us to just lock it in because it's something that feels like it should make sense. You know, it does. I don't want to. It doesn't do what you would expect, but it does what you want. You know.
And it goes the same way across all the instruments. It's the same way for me too. When I hear what Johnny brings to me, usually I'm just like, I can already hear exactly
You already
what
get
I want
it.
to play.
Yeah. That's great. I love to be inspired by looking outside too, or being outside, or looking outside. Either one. Yeah, we can relate to that. What you had said about that.
So I want to ask each of you a question individually. What advice, and we'll start with you, Dustin. We'll work our way down. We'll start with the nerd on the end. Self-proclaimed.
He just Googled
that's
what
the identity,
Gandalf means, and I can't even get over it.
What advice would you give a young musician, either wanting to get into jazz or any other genre, but that's really that's got the passion, that knows that's the direction they want to take in their life? What advice, or maybe things to do, or maybe things not to do, that have helped you along the way in your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with a broad stroke, right? Like it's okay. Like that's the thing I would say is it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be good. It's okay to be bad. It's going to be okay. Just keep playing. You know, I had a lot of wonderful mentors, and I would walk away from a gig feeling like, man, there's no way they will call me back. I just absolutely ate that up in the worst way. And you know, I had these people say like, it's okay. And I think that's an important lesson because we can take it really seriously. And sometimes it's, you know, it can be frustrating, and it can you get your feelings all in a wad about it. Yeah,
That's
it sure
great
does.
advice you're giving right now.
So, just generally, it's okay. Right. And then more specifically, I think, you know, when you want to dedicate yourself to any one thing, it's important to find those people, right? Find a community of people who you feel safe with. Like when we're rehearsing, I don't feel any like pressure about what I have to play when we're improvising. I feel free. I feel like I can really try things with these people because they're, you know, like my musical, like, compatriots, and we're all looking out for each other. So find that community, people that, you know, you feel safe bringing songs to or bringing ideas to, because if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to grow because you're working with fences. We don't want that.
That's right. Great answer, man.
And in order to collaborate, really, you have to get into this space where you can brainstorm and essentially mess up together. And that's where the beautiful things happen. But it takes a little bit of letting down your guard for that to work. So.
Absolutely.
It's a vulnerable experience for sure.
Absolutely. How about you, Tristan?
Kind of to piggyback off the community thing, finding a group of people to play with, the number one thing, play with as many people as you can, as often as you can. Because listening is great and all, but you have to be able to put it out with other people. In the realm of playing with other people, I think one of the really, it's not a super hyped up skill, but I think it should be the ability to think multi-layered or multi-leveled. So like if I'm on the drum set, I'm thinking about what the sensations in my body, and then thinking about the sound I'm getting, and then the sound of everybody else, learning to take kind of those three levels in as you play with people, because it is way too easy. I don't know about bass or piano or anything like that, but I know on drums is way too easy to get only here, you know, and be so caught up in your sound. But ultimately, music is a bigger thing than the individual when it's done with a group, and it has to be, everyone's attitude has to be towards the bigger picture. That's what I think would be the most important thing. Man.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit too and say, never take for granted listening to each other. And this is, to me, one of the easiest ways to spot a less experienced player is that they get in a zone and they play their groove, and it's cool and all, but you're not having that interaction musically. So I think listening is just absolutely key. In terms of advice, one thing that I had to come to a point in my life of realizing is that there will always be a better player. And so on the one hand, especially when you're younger and you're new, you have that hunger and you want to be the best. And we should always strive for that. We should always strive to get better. But it can also kind of make you not enjoy your art if you're constantly worrying about it. And so what I've done is to reimagine it and say, what kind of unique voice do I have that makes me different than everybody else? And as long as I can rest in that, I actually feel pretty good. I don't get nervous at gigs. I'm not worried about what people are thinking. I get to go and just play the music I want to play. And again, always striving to get better. But, you don't have to sit and chase down whoever the next best player is.
Great answers.
Yeah, y'all have given some of the best answers yet, really. I mean, a lot of people have said those same things, but y'all really are embodying that, I think.
Absolutely.
For real.
So tell us about this fourth tune that you guys played.
I have to remember which one it was.
There is no greater love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there's a really great album by a piano player named Cedar Walton. It's called Manhattan Afternoon, and he did an arrangement of this tune, There is No Greater Love. It's kind of a standard, and I always really enjoyed it, so I wanted to write my own arrangement of it. And this is another one when we were, it's pretty straight ahead swing, and sometimes our sets can get a little heavy handed, so we're like, all right, let's break it up with some swing tunes, And this one has been one that we have a lot of fun. The changes feel good. The arrangement is a lot of fun, and so.
Yeah, it was a fun tune.
Yeah.
Here it is right here. Another great tune, guys. I love the swing feel. You know, those swing tunes are kind of the ones that I gravitate to, man.
Thank
Me
you.
too, man.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's a defining characteristic of jazz, and even when something's not so overtly swing, right? The swing feel is like it's the thumbprint that's so important. Is if you can't swing, man, you really can't play jazz.
That's right. So tell us where we can find you guys' music. Have you got it listed anywhere? Or
So we're still kind of a new group, really, and so we don't have anything really out there yet. We have a YouTube page with a little bit on there, and we have some Instagram and Facebook. You can look up Jonny Verbeten Trio and find it there.
Okay.
But again, once we get this album released, then we'll share that.
Yeah, I can't
information.
wait to hear that.
Yeah,
I can't
we're
wait.
excited about it.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. It's something that I think. I mean, we recorded the first tracks for it. What was it, February? Something like that. And we've just been really loving every step of the way. So I think it's something that is, it's a big achievement to get a record out, but also it's something that we've had a lot of fun doing.
I'll say this though, we have a bunch of new material now, so we could if we were going to redo it
Forces you
today,
to
we'd
work
add
a little
we'd
bit,
add a lot
doesn't
more.
Right on.
Well, and I know Rhonda and I write together, and we've been recording some songs together. And I think also what it does, or what it's done for me, is it also creates this bond through the music. You know, because you've created that together, and you're all a part of bringing that to life. And I think when you go to the studio and you do that, it brings those songs to life.
Yeah, it's
It
like you were
does for
saying when
us.
you feel comfortable, like going, well, what do you think about this? And you don't feel like they're going to go, what?
We'd be making changes really up until the moment we were at the studio.
Yeah.
So yep. I think-
We know all about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember Tristan would say, "Oh, have you thought about doing this tempo a little faster here and things like that?" And we'd try them out. And, yeah.
Nice.
You know,
So go ahead.
I always think of the weirdest things, but I guess it was during that song that we just heard that I started to have a little visual of the swing band in the Aristocats. I know y'all seen it.
Yeah, I love it.
So I have a daughter who is obsessed with cats, and so she knows that.
That
quite
was
well.
my favorite movie when I was a kid. And that band was swing.
I mean, if we can elicit that feeling every time we play
There
of
you
just
go.
having a
Gotta
party
think
in France,
if
I'm
you
all right with
ain't
that.
got swing.
That's your point of arrival, right? When you can do
So-
the Aristocats.
Let's switch gears just a little bit, Jonny, since we've got you here and we've got this beautiful collection that was donated by Dr. Glenn Ely to the Southwest Music Archive. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at the archive, what the archive's all about for the people who are not familiar with it, and maybe a little bit about this collection as well?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about this. We're really excited about the work we do. It's extremely gratifying work. What we get to do is we get to tell the history of music in Lubbock and the West Texas area. What an honor that is. We've had so much good music come out of this area. So what we're doing right now is we have an ongoing partnership with the Buddy Holly Center for a Walk of Fame exhibit. So right now I have one up here on Terry Allen's 1979 album Lubbock on Everything. And we're getting ready to do a new exhibit on the music producer Cliff Magnus, who worked with a lot of famous people, but he came from this area. This particular collection that we're looking at today is the Glenn Ely Rock Memorabilia Collection. Glenn is an avid fanatic. He won't say fan. He'll say, I'm a fanatic.
We got the pleasure of meeting him before
Yeah.
we started this, and what a cool cat, man.
And so Glenn, he's not a musician, but he's a music fan, and he has carefully put together all of these, and he did it all the right way. So every single document has provenance. We have paperwork and authentication documents for every item. Every frame has been professionally done with acid-free paper and archival quality glass. And so this is a collection that can stay in this condition for a long time.
So he made your job really easy.
He made it. I'll tell you a dirty little secret in the archives. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but when we get things in frames, 90% of the time we have to take them out because most people are not caring for these items the way that they're meant to be for long term.
And it's probably just because they don't know.
They don't know. When we're in archives, we don't think what's this going to look like in 10 years. We think what is this going to look like in 100 years or 200 years. And so when you're asking those kind of questions, you can be quite meticulous. So.
Well, we had the pleasure when Curtis was still there of getting a tour and getting to walk through. and
was
it's
blown away.
incredible what you guys
Yeah,
have.
I can't wait to
though.
go back because that.
I mean,
was
just the master
incredible.
tapes alone, all those master tapes, like that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
So I spend a lot of my time digitizing old AV mediums, and we have every kind of AV product you've probably ever heard of, going all the way back to wax cylinders. So, and so especially in the early 90s when everything was starting to go digital and we have all sorts of wonky AV mediums, we have them all. And so in order to have them all, we have to have equipment to play them all.
Sure.
We have to learn how to work with this equipment. And so this world of recorded sound is actually a really fascinating study. And
Well, and I love all the reel-to-reel and all the equipment that you have to have to transfer to that data. I mean, it's pretty incredible. You got some old machines in there.
you learn some tricks.
Yeah, I
and,
bet.
yeah. It's interesting because you can't just go on Amazon and purchase new parts, you know. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet. So how can the people watching and listening either support or be a part of the archive? Is there ways that they can donate to the archive, or if somebody has a collection that they want to get in touch with you about?
yeah, so there's a couple different ways. You can go to our Southwest Collection website, which is hosted through Texas Tech Libraries, and you'll get some information. Beyond that, what we really want is people to come by and visit and come look at the stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
go.
And so is it
Definitely.
open to the public?
So we have a reading room and we have a reference department. And so you'll come in and you'll sign in with the reference department and you put in requests for the items you want to look at. And that is open to the public. And,
wow.
Again, like I said, we're telling this story of West Texas music.
Absolutely.
And we want to make sure people know this stuff. And so we're quite happy to sit and work with people when they come in and look at it. So.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you, because that was our goal for this podcast, hence the name Rhythm and Roots.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
And our song that we wrote, the intro song, has references to Buddy Holly and some of the greater guys that have come through here. But, that was the idea. Is there's such a rich, deep history of music here in every genre. I mean, the world needs to know.
I think so.
Because it's an incredible place to be a musician. I mean, I'm humbled every time I go out and watch somebody. Absolutely
Me too. And doing
blown
this
away.
is just, yeah,
There's some incredible.
special.
So thanks again, you guys being here today. Johnny, thanks for taking the time to show us this collection. And Tristan and Dustin, thanks for being here as part of the trio and playing some
Yeah, thanks for having us.
incredible jazz music.
Oh, yeah.
And so today is Buddy Holly's birthday. We're releasing this episode intentionally today because we want to give tribute to Buddy, which I think is one of probably the most important stems of the roots that we have, in music. So that's why we decided.
most well-known, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we really appreciate you working with us, being here at the Buddy Holly Center today to do this and release this on Buddy's birthday with this incredible rock collection, and then the pleasure of getting to hear you guys play. So it's been an honor.
It's our
Thank
pleasure,
you so
for sure.
much. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take you guys out. This is actually the last episode of season 1. I want to tell you thank you for being my
Thank you.
partner in crime this
Yeah,
season.
this has
It's
just
been
gone by
incredible.
so quickly, and the crew is.
Yeah, we're going to give a shout out to the
Yeah.
City of Lubbock Communication and Marketing Team, Lacey Nobles, Lauren, Curtis Spivey, Mike Robles, and Robert Jenkins. These guys have carried us. They've made us look good and
They've
sound
made
good
every
all year
single
long.
time we've done this a pleasure.
Absolutely. So we appreciate it. And since it's his buddy's birthday and it's the season finale of episode 1, the Jonny Verbeten Trio is going to take us out with a Buddy Holly tune. Here you go.
Happy birthday.
All right, tell me, man, for some Buddy.